Prada sweater is not in the store to be sold. The Prada sweater is in the store to sell the Hugo Boss sweater.
Got it.
This
Yeah.
is so important. The Prada sweater is not in the store to be sold. The Prada sweater is in the store to sell the Hugo Boss sweater.
Yeah.
And I've been training many, many salespeople. And sometimes when I revisit them after 2, 3 years, they come to me and say, "Oh, yeah, there was this other product that we have talked about with you, and we kind of forgot what it was about, but nobody bought it. It was too expensive, so we don't offer it anymore."
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you shouldn't do, right? Because you should be offering that, and you should be knowing it's not for it's well, it's not for sale, but it is for sale, but it's not important to sell it, right? It's important to distort the perception of
Mhm.
your cash cow product that you actually want to sell. Your Hugo Boss sweater is your cash cow product, right?
Welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks Real Challenges, Experts Advice, the podcast dedicated to helping those transitioning into customer success and early career customer success managers. I'm your host, Byron Turuño, a customer success manager and someone who's just like you, still learning about this amazing world of customer success and everything that comes with it. There's just a lot that we can learn, and today is not the exception. Today, we are gonna talk about the science behind winning deals, and we will go into discovering those secrets behind the invisible game of negotiations. Because yes, there is an invisible game, but there's also a visible game of it, and we will understand how psychology can influence outcomes, why value perception can make or break a deal, and what practical strategies will our guests today give us to be successful, or at least to increase that possibilities of winning a deal. Anything from renewing an existing customer, or actually having a new customer, or even negotiating your schedule, or even negotiating your salary. There's just so much that we can use with all the insights that our guest is going to give us today. I want to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Vitally, trusted by 600 plus companies. It supports every CSM role, from customer success managers to operations to even executives. Please keep in mind that for taking a qualified demo call, which is basically after an initial discovery call, you will receive a free pair of AirPods Pro. So, what are you waiting for? If you're looking for a customer success platform, or if you're just curious enough and you want to check out Vitally, go into today's episode description and click on vitally.io/CS Talks. And let's continue today's episode. So, who is our guest? That's the big question. Who are we going to be talking with today? Well, today we have the pleasure of talking with Kai-Markus Mueller, a neuroscientist, professor of consumer behavior, director of pricing research, and co author of The Invisible Game. This book that has brought me a lot of insights and a lot of really interesting concepts that I've never knew about until I read it. Kai, sorry. Welcome to Customer Success Talks, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Byron. This is a wonderful invitation, and I'm very much looking forward to the next 45 minutes.
Let's do it. Marcus, I don't know if I should call you Marcus, Kai, or Kai Marcus. What works?
Yeah, Kai is fine for all
Kai.
the internationals. Kai-Markus is more like what my parents or my grandparents would call me.
Wait, okay, got it. Let's go with Kai. Kai, I want to start with talking about your book. I think that what you and Gabriela did, it's an art, and I want to know what inspired you to actually start writing the book.
Well, a big part of the inspiration was Gabrielle herself,
Mm,
because she is a lifelong salesperson. She sells professional deals in very, very high volumes, and she's been selling, yeah, amazing B2B deals, especially in the chemical industry. And she figured out that applying a lot of simple insights from consumer behavior and from social psychology can really change deal making dramatically. So that's why we teamed up, because I'm somewhat a little bit more on the academic side. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously, I'm also an entrepreneur, and I've sealed my deals. Of course, not as many as Gabi has, but we teamed up, and I think it turned out to become a fabulous team,
Mhm.
because Gabi's practical experience from hundreds of deals that she sealed, and practical creativity that she brought into the project was really invaluable. And then on the other hand, I'm also a neuroscientist and a consumer psychologist. So what I did was also combining these two things, the
Yeah.
the deal, the B2B deal, and the consumer psychology and the consumer neuroscience, which is my field of research and business.
When you it's funny because you say simple insights to use a simple word for it, but there is a lot of research behind the book.
Yes, yes. If you look at the various effects and the various phenomena in consumer psychology, many of them are based on thousands of articles, right? I mean, obviously, I
Hmm.
have not read all these thousands of articles, neither has Gabi, but we've read we've distilled the most important ones and turned them into a real strategy, right? So, academic consumer psychology often discovers an effect and then stops at that effect, right? So,
Uh-huh.
for example, we can see that stating a large number will lead to a higher price perception afterwards, right? What we did, we really enriched this with a lot of practical ideas and practical examples on how to use such numerical so-called anchoring in order to really improve the deal. So what we basically did is we turned basic academic insights into a
Mhm.
strategic concept.
Yeah, and you know what? It's incredible how it's easy to read. It's like a book that you can actually consume. And at least I had different wow moments. Like when I was reading, I was like, ah, wow, so that's actually what happens, and that's what I could do. It was different. It was a how can I say this? It was a wow moment when I noticed how we can all play with the silence, and how are the other people on the other side of the table, they can play with silence, but they can also play with time.
Mhm. Absolutely. So that's an interesting concept. If you look at, for instance, the power of silence, it's very hard for us humans to just stare at each other.
Yeah.
You see, I stop saying something, you start laughing, right?
Right
It's
away.
funny, right? Yeah, I just demonstrated it, right? And it leads to quite some pressure on the other side, right? And of course, it also leads to pressure on you, the silence. But if you know that this is just um, a strategic move, and you kind of perceive it to be a game between two sides, you say, okay, I'm making this move in this game, and putting some virtual pressure on the other person or on the other side of the negotiation table. I'll just give you a little. I can't talk too much about it, but it was funny because when Gabi and I, we had various deals to have made around this book, right? I mean, bookmaking deals, PR deals, and so forth. And in one of these instances, it was like we understood each other without saying anything. The other side said some price, and we were just silent until the other side started, changing the price without us even saying anything.
That's so invisible game.
Yes.
Actually, that's a question. Would the silence be part of the invisible game, or would it be part of the visible game?
Well, it's like, everything you do has a visible and an invisible part to it.
Mm.
So it's of course visible that you don't say anything, but that's not interesting. Well, you just, okay, you haven't said something for 30 seconds, so what? However, what's happening invisibly, like, the other side's heartbeat goes up, the other side starts,
True.
have racing thoughts and so forth, and all these things. These are things that happen invisibly, and these are the major drivers of outcomes in the end.
And that's part of the I think also maybe mindset preparation that happens as well, or because I think that practice makes a master. And
Yeah.
as more that you apply all the strategies that we will talk about today and the ones that you have in the book, I think that it's going to be something automatically coming from system 2, where now, okay, you take a pause and now you know what the possibility of an outcome is. But I want to also understand your definition of a winning deal. Is it just closing the deal and having that renewal or that upsell, or is there more than just a winning deal for you?
Well, visibly, in the visible side of the
Uh-huh.
invisible of the game, on the visible side, yes, it's just closing a deal and exchanging money for services or money for goods. On the invisible side, the question is who set the rules and who actually won the game on the invisible side, right? There have been surely occasions in every salesperson's life where they thought they had just won a deal and they were very happy, but they were playing a game that was set by the other side, right? Let me take this example of somebody in procurement. Somebody in procurement might actually think that they've just gotten a 5% discount, which might have been just the 5% add-on that the salesperson just put on before in order to give it to the
Oh
procurement
yeah.
manager. In that case, the salesperson actually won the invisible side of the game because the salesperson set the rules, and the salesperson laid out the trap so that the procurement in the end would just, take the bait and be happy with the 5%, which was what the salesperson wanted all along. Now, in that case, visibly, the procurement person seems to have won, but in reality, the salesperson has won because they've gotten exactly what they've wanted and potentially what they've calculated.
What would be the first step that I can apply this week, this day, to increase the possibility of winning? Because on the example that you just gave, and if I'm not wrong, I feel that there are two elements, the framing and the answering. Am I right?
Yes, these are definitely things you can start at any moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is just simply
Anchoring.
um, anchoring is simply stating a number that could be rather relatively high or relatively low, and then using that number to distort the other side's perception.
Okay.
So I've been telling this story for many times, but I think it's really really important, and that's a story of my cousin who visited me, and he wore a new cashmere sweater, and I commented on it and said, "Oh, nice new cashmere sweater, Hugo Boss, right? That's very very cool." And he said, "Oh yeah, you know what? That was a bargain, such a good deal. It just cost 250 euros." And I was very surprised, like, why would you say that? Like, this is so odd, right? But what had happened is him and his wife, they went to the department store and told the salesperson that they are looking for business sweaters for him. The
Mhm.
guy, the salesperson, was some genius. The salesperson came with a product that was a pure anchor. He came with a sweater, and my cousin tried it on, and he liked it. He wanted to buy it, but it turns out that this was a Prada sweater, and the Prada sweater was 800 euros. So the 800 euros was a pure anchor for the 250 euro Hugo Boss sweater. And now suddenly, after having been anchored with 800 euros, the my cousin suddenly felt that, 250 euros for a good branded cashmere sweater, that seems like a good deal, right? And then he thought he was to be taking the bargain, right? So his own perception of sweaters was actually distorted by the Prada sweater and his own value perception, right? And it worked particularly well because it was both in euros, it was both a very similar product, and that's very nice. And the one thing with this anchor, the Prada sweater is the anchor, right? And the price of the Prada sweater is the anchor. But this anchoring product, that's very important. And I think this is, for most people who do business and for most people who work in sales, this is the hardest part to understand. Now, this was, so far it was easy, but now comes the very hard thing. And I think I'm going to say this twice, just so you really understand. The Prada sweater is not in the store to be sold. The Prada sweater is in the store to sell the Hugo Boss sweater.
Got it. Yeah.
This is so important. The Prada sweater is not in the store to be sold. The Prada sweater is in the store to sell the Hugo Boss sweater.
Yeah.
And I've been training many, many salespeople. And sometimes when I revisit them after 2, 3 years, they come to me and say, oh yeah, there was this other product that we have talked about with you, and we kind of forgot what it was about, but nobody bought it. It was too expensive, so we don't offer it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you shouldn't do, right? Because you should be offering that, and you should be knowing it's not for it's not for sale, but it is for sale, but it's not important to sell it, right? It's important to distort the perception of your cash cow, product that you actually want to sell. Your Hugo Boss sweater is your cash cow product, right? And I've seen this. The funny thing is, this concept, you can apply this in any kind of place. I've been applying this in museums. I've been applying this in software consulting.
Yeah.
I've been applying this in marketing research, in whatever, in hotel deals, whatever customers came from and were wondering how they should change their product portfolio. I was advising them to either use the Prada sweater they had, the quote unquote Prada sweater. It's not really a Prada sweater, right? It could be in a hotel, it could be a suite, in a software in a software product, it could be a gold version or something like that, right? It's just something that stands out, that has a somewhat unfortunately high price. But this is good because the expensive suite will make the normal standard hotel room look very attractive.
Yeah.
The gold package in the software will make the silver or bronze package just very attractive. And that's important, yeah.
I think
so that's the anchor, and that's the strategy of the anchor.
I love it because you'll use words like perception, but I think that maybe confidence as we speak and how we frame that could also play a big role.
Absolutely. Indeed, something that I have been measuring in the brain. Yes, I'm a brain scientist, but I've done some experiments where I measured in the brain the value perception of people, of customers who are buying a product, but also the value perception of salespeople. And sometimes the value perception of salespeople was lower than that of the customer. And that, it speaks exactly to what you say. Sometimes if the salespeople has a low value perception, the salespeople will not speak with confidence, and the salespeople will potentially then switch to a different product or will start giving discounts without being asked for discounts.
So that's a proactive also move based on what they have used in the past, knowing what could work.
Yes, yes, and of course you have to understand. I mean, it's this is no place to be yelling at salespeople. Salespeople have a hard job, and salespeople have always heard we don't buy it because it's too expensive, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of the cheap excuse that most customers have. You know, that well, not now, and it's really expensive, and then you just get off my back. Don't call me anymore because I just didn't want to buy it now, or it was we didn't have the budget for it. And so that's what they typically hear. They never hear that was so cheap. I want to buy more of it. Oftentimes it's not the case, right? Oftentimes the salespeople have a hard job, and the one experiment that I'm also describing in the invisible game is, by the way, an insurance broker, or
Mhm.
it's an insurance that sells through brokers, and that insurance insurance didn't sell as good as the brain scans had predicted, the brain scans of the consumers, right? And why was that? Because the brain scans of the salespeople, of the brokers who would sell the insurance, they could actually explain the low sales much better than the value perception of the consumer. So what we had to do afterwards, we had to teach the salespeople, we had to teach the brokers that the insurance really is worth its money.
Hmm. But how do you teach that, Kai? How can I learn that just by I want to this weekend I want to spend some time on learning about this.
Mhm.
How? I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like a lot.
Well, the first thing is that you have to explain to your salespeople is you're worth it, right? This is if you're a shareholder or not in a company, it's not that critical, right? You are worth it. The product is worth it. Well, I hope it's worth it to everybody who listens. I hope they're not selling some lousy product.
You never know.
And the company is typically is worth it, right? And you
Yeah.
as a salesperson or as a customer success um, representative, you need to love your product so much that you really are it's clear to you that it shouldn't be sold under value, right? And what you can do if you are managing a team of salespeople is also you can anchor them, right? You can anchor them
Mm.
yourself, and you can say, look, with our product, our customer makes so much more money. It's really worth it, right? Actually, we're underselling it, right? Our customer is saving so and so much, or yeah, whatever. Whatever it is that you do, oftentimes, it could be a software or so, and the software saves personnel, where you can do this
Mm.
calculation. You can say, look, um, with our software, they save a lot of money, right? And that's why we should actually be charging more. So that's the anchor, and then salespeople will be more confident and frame this differently when they go out into the sale.
So benchmarking is a really powerful tool. And
Yes, yes, but always benchmark with the right thing, right? Benchmark with the
mm,
Prada sweater and don't benchmark with the H&M sweater.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Vitally playbooks automate repetitive work and customer journeys, turning CSMs from reactive to proactive. Isn't that what we all want? It also enables new levels of CS productivity with tools from projects, conversations, surveys, and even goal tracking. So, what are you waiting for, everyone? Go ahead into today's episode description, click on the link vitally.io/CS talks, and let's continue today's episode. Kai, in your book, it's called The Invisible Game. But by the way, it's super cool the way that is that people can see it because it's the invisible game. But you also touch on the visible side of things. Can we touch on both? What is the invisible game and what's the visible game to have a better idea?
hmm hmm Um, well, so visible is everything that we can measure and can see. Um, and that it includes things like there was a deal and the deal was somewhat average or good or not so good, right?
Mm.
But the way this deal has built up, right? That is something that there's a lot of invisible things happening. You know, things like body language play a role. Things
Mm.
like how confident am I? Have I been anchoring this customer over the course of the year, for example?
Mhm.
If so, then then it's probably I've been playing the invisible part of the game very well, and then I've made some visible moves which seem to magically work,
Right.
but the invisible preparation, it's good if you don't do this as a gut feeling, but you really do this well prepared and you understand the science behind it, and that gives you much more confidence and it gives you much more, a much better guideline on how to move around and on which moves to play in the invisible game. One thing that you've been mentioning was framing, for
Yeah.
example, right? So um, you could frame if you give something for free, right? You could frame it as a discount, or you
Mhm.
could frame it as something your customer gets for free, right? In the end, mathematically, it's the same thing, but perceptually, this will be very different, right? People, for example, love when they get something for free. Yeah. So when people get, for example, a free delivery on top, that's something they really love, right? And that is something that you should always keep in mind. There's a very, very cool, again, a consumer experiment. It's a bit, well, it's about 20 years old or so, but it's a very, very cool experiment. And that shows you how funny our minds are. That was in the United States. Professors conducted an experiment with students, and they just um, went to the university court, the public place, and they put up a little booth, and they would sell one of two things: either Hershey's Kisses, which are little American chocolates.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah,
I
they're
like them.
good. They're good, but they're not perfect. Uh, and
They're
the
not.
alternative, the alternative was Swiss truffle chocolates.
Ah,
Okay, Lindt truffles or something like that, right?
yeah.
So both of these products were highly discounted. The Hershey's Kiss was sold at 1 cent, and the Lindt truffle was sold at 15 cent, right? So it's like, with the Lindt truffle, maybe you save $1 or $2, and with the Hershey's Kiss, maybe you save 10 cents or something like that. So which would you take when you have such a high discount? Most people, or the majority of people, would actually take the Swiss chocolate and the Lindt truffle, right?
Right.
Because it's kind of logical, right? You basically save, I don't know, $1.50 or so per truffle, right? So the majority would take that choice and not the Hershey's Kiss. So the next day they go on the university court again and put up a booth, sell two chocolates, a Hershey's Kiss and a Lindt truffle, at a very, very high discount. And they just make a very, very small change to the day before. They reduce both discounts by another cent. So they sell the Hershey's Kiss for 0
Mhm.
and the Lindt truffle for 14 cents. What happens? People suddenly reverse their preference and take the Hershey's Kiss for free, right?
Oh,
It's funny, right? You get something for free, your mind, suddenly thinks
you're
very, very
blind.
differently. You're blind, right? You're blind to an amazing, to an amazing discount, yeah. And this also works in B2B, right? If you have something for free to give, and clarify that it's free, it's a very, very powerful tool, right? Yeah, people think that zero is something special, something for free. Zero risk is the same thing. Zero risk is disproportionately overvalued over a small risk.
And I feel that the industry who does this really well is the cinema industry. Like when I go to see a movie,
Mhm.
they have different prices for popcorns, but
Yes.
always it makes total sense. It is so hard to not buy the biggest one because the other ones, the price is just almost as high as the popcorn, the biggest popcorn. So I
Mhm.
always is like, I don't want to fall into this trap, but I have to because for me, the value is to have more popcorns
Yeah.
for a little bit more of price than the other ones that don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
So they
Yes.
play really good visible game there.
Yes. Yes. Although there's a lot of things happening invisibly in your mind, of
Mm,
course.
yeah.
So here's a very important learning for our listeners. Um, the decision, the decision which product to buy is oftentimes not residing within the customer brain, but within the brain of the person who designed the offer. Yeah. So
Hmm.
that's the thing, you actually you're just buying the big popcorn, right? And you're buying it because somebody created this choice architecture for you so that you would do this, right?
Right.
And a good choice architecture makes it very easy for the buyer to decide. Yeah, it makes it very easy for it's kind of, yeah, it kind of makes it easy for you to buy the right popcorn, right? Or to take the right deal, or to buy the right consulting service, to find the right lawyer, etc. Right? I mean, this is like happening all over the place. Um, and why is that? It's important that people believe they have made the choice, because the human
Mm.
brain really hates making a decision, but because decisions are decisions are and choices are very hard to make, right? And they require lots of energy. So people really don't like to make a decision, but they love the illusion of having made a decision.
The illusion of winning.
Yes, and the illusion of saying, "Oh well, look, I found out this is a good deal."
Yeah.
Ta-da! And of course, if you've prepared the deal well, you have offered them already the deal that you knew they would take.
This is super interesting, Kai, because I feel personally that playing both games, the visible and the invisible, are super important, right? But I feel that if I would have to take one team or the other,
Mhm.
having the invisible game prepared and ready to be structured and delivered has a bigger impact than the visible part of the confidence and the body language, which are important. But I'm just trying to move the balance a little bit.
Mhm.
What do you think about this?
Um, well, um, maybe we should go back a little to explain what system one and system two are, and then we
Okay,
could think
yeah.
about what the implications are for the invisible part of the game. So a lot of psychologists have been, putting up theories of that there are two modes of thinking, right? Thinking quick and intuitively,
Mhm.
also potentially, making a little mistake. Like I ask you, complete the term bread and butter, and you say butter, right? It's kind of automatically. Whereas we also sometimes need really to think consciously and not automatically. And conscious thought requires things like um, conscious thought, is typical in, say, playing a game of chess, is typical in doing your taxes, is typical in, yeah, whatever you do, right? Writing a book or something like that. All these things that require lots of thought and require lots of attentive thinking. These issues are done consciously, and they require lots of effort, right? And so um, a lot of our decisions are well. basically every decision in the end has a system 2 component and a system 1 component, right? Sometimes it's 100% system 1. If I breathe in, breathe out, right? I mean, that's I can do this consciously, but most of the time it's just happening 100% system 1, right? And in system 2, we are it also plays a role, right? For example, you may still you may be influenced somewhat by something, but in the end, your system 2 has also a large your system 2 also influences the decision a lot. So let's say if you say you wanted to go and buy something today, you're looking for, I don't know, a new computer, then the retailer who sells computers, they can create choice architectures and can nudge you a little. So that's the technical term would be nudging, like pushing you slightly towards one or the other device. But if your budget is, let's say, €1,000, you can be nudged as much as you want. You will not buy a computer for €2,000, right? This is just not the case, right? So the big topics, like what are we doing at all? What kind of product are we looking for? What kind of service are we selling or buying or dealing with? These are clearly visible and external guidelines, But then within the when it comes to really to the little questions and to little nudges, you can have a lot of wins that are happening invisibly. Very often in B2B, this is the case when you are when management has made a decision to buy a service. I don't know, say they need a new controlling software, right? And then you offer controlling software. Well, then you're in the game, right? And then you can use the invisible game to increase the chances of selling your controlling software over the controlling software of your competitor.
So basically, you're saying that we need both.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. Because I feel that based on understanding how the brain works when taking decisions, it helps also creating this choice architecture that you were talking about that I never heard about it. So it's super interesting to know that we could play with this during a negotiation. In your book, you talk about the invisible game. There are three factors that influence the invisible game: the situational awareness, the defense, and the offense.
Yeah.
How can we apply these three on a day-to-day where we are really busy with meetings coming up, with a lot of things going on a daily basis? How can we actually, in a quick wins, keep these three factors in mind to increase that possibility?
Yeah. So situational awareness is really a matter of training yourself and say, well, do I have a wrong gut feeling here? Like the popcorn example was very good, right? You have a gut feeling like, why should I buy the biggest popcorn or something like that, right? So that's and if you start training yourself to listen to that, you should always try to become aware of it, and that's situational awareness. And say, if you're not sure about it, you should buy time. I mean, if the movie starts and you just buy a popcorn, so be it. But you're not making a major mistake by buying popcorn. But if you recognize that somebody tries to sell you something, you should buy time, right? Because you should buy some time and say, look at that. It's interesting, but I'm not making this decision right now, right? Even if you have an excuse, like say, I got to talk to my boss, or I don't know to whom, you never got to talk to my manager or so. or check if there is enough budget or so forth. But you shouldn't be like, if somebody gives you some sort of, if you get some sort of vibes where you feel like, oh, something's going on, you should be aware of that, right? And then you shouldn't be just saying, whatever, let's do it, right?
Because it could influence the confidence part too.
Yeah, and maybe you've made a decision and you afterwards you regret it, right? And people do make very different decisions when they are under pressure, right?
Yeah.
That is when the system one is playing out big time. Yeah. So a famous example is that judges that are that have a day where they look at cases for parole. So somebody's saying like, okay, I've been sentenced to 10 years, but I've been behaving 3 years very well in prison. Now I want to get out of prison. I mean, for those people, this is a very, very, very important moment in their life, obviously, right? When you are in prison,
Absolutely.
I've never been, but
Sounds scary.
it sounds scary. But it's like, for those people, I guess this is a very, very important moment in their life, right? When they say, do I get parole or not? I've been, behaving well and so forth. And the interesting thing is that judges give it a lot of thought and are around 50-50 for a long time. However, when the judges are shortly before their breaks or shortly before they're about to go home, their parole rate goes down to zero, right? They just say, oh no, you go back to prison and I take my lunch, right? So it's really, it's not a conscious thing, obviously, right? I mean, any judge would say this is not, it's not for me, right? But we are humans, right? And this is how you see, like when system one takes over, the low blood sugar, they're tired of deciding, and so they just do what is the default, and default is this person is in prison, so this person goes back to prison. They don't want to give it further thought, right? So this is now I kind of lost my train of thought why I said that, but
That's a
yeah.
decision
This is
fatigue.
the decision fatigue, and so this is the question is, when do you use system one and two, when do you use system two? And so also you should know this, like if you need for example, from a customer, you need a system two decision, you should not, do it when they're low on blood sugar, right? You shouldn't do it shortly before they go for lunch, right? For example, when you are for the first time trying to make a deal with a new client and that client has been working with others before, they need their system two and really need to say, okay, well, let's try this new vendor, let's try this new approach or this new software, whatever. And then and that's really then they should be, you should give them time. They shouldn't be under pressure. They shouldn't be like on their way for going home or for lunch or something like that. Just good to do this early in the morning, right?
Early in the morning, that's the key. Yeah.
But if you know that you have a nice boss who will always give you a vacation, it's probably the right thing to ask them with a lower blood sugar and say, hey, can I take this 3 weeks off this summer? And he'll be like, yeah, whatever. Yes, leave me alone. I need to go now, right? It's probably the right thing to do to ask them when they're playing system one, right?
Kai, we have touched, and we can spend a lot of more time talking about the research behind your book and all about the science behind winning deals, but we have been also focusing on two aspects of us and what we can implement, and also on the customer side. But there's a question from the audience which is internally within the team of this person. So I ask in LinkedIn if there's any question for you. And the question came in from Jay Sanchez, a big virtual hug from Germany all the way to the States. Jay, thank you so much for your question. And this is a leadership question oriented, Kai. And the question is the following: how do you scale deal making strategies across an entire team? How can I get the mindset and the skill set implemented across the board? And I feel that maybe here some triggers that you can give might be like quick wins as well. Like what triggers, how can that happen, basically?
So what I would always do is I would start off with a training. But what I see in many teams then happening after a while is that people get back into their old habits, right?
Yeah.
And this is this is important that you and there's even good software out there, that helps you keep remembering certain things, right? What we suggest in the invisible game is these little post-its, right? We say, to look, there's a post-it, um, and just write this, write the little post-it and stick it to your screen. This is one way to say, making sure that people really keep on remembering what is important. But yeah, other than that, it is also be a good example, right? And
Mm,
also use certain things within your team. Use certain things like um, anchor them, frame things positively, etc.
interesting. That's a easy wins that Jay can definitely apply. And thank you very much, Kai, for all of these amazing insights that you have given us. And there's just one more question that I have for you, because I think that you have given a lot of insights, but I will still try more from you. I'm not going to let you go. And this is more about for the audience out there, and even for anyone who wants to start applying something this week. If there's one action that they should take from today's episode to immediately influence the outcome of the next negotiation, what would it be?
Don't forget the power of the anchor. The
Power.
anchor is very, very strong. People have no no brain mass dedicated to finding the right price. So our brains are very bad at finding the right price. And so use anchors. Think about the story of the Prada sweater. And please keep in mind the Prada sweater um, is not there to be sold. It's there to sell the Hugo Boss sweater. Whatever that means for your business.
Kai, thank you very much again for your time. And yeah, it has been amazing learning from you. And I invite everyone to go and purchase The Invisible Game. Trust me, it's a book that is completely worth it, easy to understand, and you will start learning concepts that let's all be invisibles. Um, no, that doesn't make sense. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here with us in another episode of Customer Success Talks. And like you know the drill. Remember, keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.
Thanks so much. Bye bye.
But I do not want to finish today's episode without letting you know that with Vitally, you can unlock collaboration with your customers through dedicated workspaces to execute on shared outcomes through data, feedback, and more. Also, with Vitally AI, yes, AI, it automates workflows and turns unstructured customer data into actionable insights. Wow. Go into today's episode description, click on vitally.io/CS Talks. And thanks to those sponsors, we are able to grow. I just purchased a new microphone and I can continue purchasing more and more to continue growing and help everyone out there who is either transitioning into CS or early career customer success manager. Thank you, Vitally, for this opportunity. And thank you all for your support.